This is the second part of the introduction video, and in front of you you have the a figure taken directly from your textbook. It's actually figure 8.1 on page 334. This same figure in a JPEG form is available in week 5 materials. And I'm going to be making some notations on this, and I will save the final copy because this is going to wind up being our roadmap, and so that you sort of, as we progress through what's going to be a lot of individual steps, you'll still be able to sort of follow along and see where we are in each of these processes. So if you start on the left-hand side here, and the textbook is certainly worth reading because they have a lot of more detailed information about what some of these steps are. So I'm just going to summarize this. But basically on the far left you have the data sources that we have. There's ERP, an ERP database here that stands for Enterprise Resource Planning, mostly probably stuff like production and information, that kind of activity going on here. A legacy database from a previous system that they may have had, a point-of-sale database, and all sorts of collections of other databases, web-based, logs, and maybe some external files like we talked about earlier, maybe some census information or whatever. So you have a whole series of data sources from various different kinds of structures and different kinds of activities going on. So what you do is you go through this ETL, extraction, transformation, and loading process. And you might do this every week. You might do it every day. You might do it every hour. It depends upon how fast you need updates, and when you're doing your analyses from the results of this whole process. So you go through a process where we select the data we're going to need, we extract it, we need to transform it because there's going to be some similar information across here, but they're going to have different names for the same entity perhaps, or we define a particular value with a different code, or just any number of different things that and you're going to be transforming it. In addition, you might be actually pre-aggregating some of the information so that when you're querying it, some of the aggregations like the sums or the averages of information here have already been calculated for you, and it makes it much faster. And we integrate all of this, and then we load it into a what is in this particular example is an enterprise data warehouse. And this metadata up here is as your book points out, is just data about data. This has all the definitions that we would use to do our extraction and transforming and integration built into it, and so that we get consistency every time we do this particular process. So you can think of an enterprise data warehouse as sort of a series of layers, if you will, because if we do this every day, we have a new layer each day, and it's sort of like one big huge grid, if you will, with layers on top of layers here. In a way, that's one way of looking at it. And he has a replication function we might want to do so that in case something happens here, we can, there is a backup or whatever reason we might want to be doing replication. And then after we've done and designed and implemented our enterprise data warehouse in this particular structure, there are a series of what are called data marts. And data marts are usually built around a particular business function like marketing, engineering, finance, human resources, any number of things, and is oftentimes a subset of the information that we have available to us in the data warehouse. So one strategy would be to build the complete enterprise data warehouse, and after it's completed, you would have if you wanted to do specialized ones, you would build specialized data marts for each of the business functions. Or you just might not build data marts at all. You might come over here, and these are the applications that would interface directly, in this particular case, with enterprise data warehouses as opposed to individual data marts. And there's actually another option here that's not shown that's available, and that's to start out with an ETL process here specifically designed to say develop a data mart for marketing, and then another ETL process for data marts for engineering, a data mart for finance, and so forth. And the advantage of this is that you oftentimes can get a data mart up and running a lot quicker for a specific business function, and make it available to that business function and have it be sort of a specialized kind of area much faster than waiting for this grand, sometimes very large enterprise data warehouse to materialize and be able to start querying. So one approach would be just to develop a series of data marts. When you're satisfied that you have them pretty much in order, then you might want to back down and incorporate them each in an enterprise data warehouse where you can eliminate the duplications and maybe reduce the number of ETLs that you have to do in any given cycle. And so that's sort of a compromise position here. Once you have them, you have this API, stands for Application Programming Interface, and or middleware, and that's just the connections between either your data marts or your data warehouse and the various applications, routine business reporting or the standard reports that you do periodically. But instead of doing this reporting on your original databases, and for the reasons that we talked about earlier, slowing them down or whatever, you can run these against the data marts and or the data warehouses. You can also do data text mining, which we'll talk about in another iLab. You can also do dashboarding and online analytical processing here, and we'll talk about that a little bit in this iLab for this week. And there may even, in fact, be various custom-built applications that you're running here. So there could be a whole series of things that you're running off of this, either your data mart or your enterprise data warehouses. Now, what we're going to do in this particular part of the iLab, what we're going to do is we're going to look at a particular data source. So I'm going to draw a line through this, and I'm going to call this here. I'm going to call this a AdventureWorks, because this is our source. We're not going to have a lot of these guys, but it is basically our source. So we'll call this AdventureWorks. And that's the Microsoft Supply database. And we'll take a look at what that, and you'll get pretty familiar with the inside of what that looks like and what the collection of tables and relationships are as well. Now, to do the ETL process, what we will do is we will use a Microsoft product called SSIS. So I'm just going to draw a line here, and that stands for SQL Server Integration Services. So that's Microsoft's product to do that. Oracle has one. All the major databases have one. And we're going to look at a specific example where we are actually going to pull information out of AdventureWorks using SSIS and build us what will probably be more like a data mart in here. So we won't be, but we will have available to us a data warehouse that's been pre-constructed by Microsoft, and that one is going to be it's called AdventureWorks DW. So let me just get this guy right here and type it in so you sort of know where we start talking about AdventureWorks DW. That's basically for the data warehouse. So AdventureWorks DW for data warehouse. And what we're going to do in another video in this iLab is we're actually going to show you how you can construct your own fairly simple data mart and using this whole process. So we'll wind up with something that will have your D number attached to it, and it will be your data mart itself. So let's just call that your data mart. And finally, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to take a look at taking this data mart and producing a cube, a data cube out of it, so that we can query it easily, browse it, and analyze it, and provide it as sort of input to other reporting capabilities. And with the closest thing we have here in this roadmap is this OLAP function right here, and we're going to use a Microsoft product that's also part of SQL Server, and it's called SSAS. So that stands for SQL Server Analytical Analysis Services. So there are sort of 4 parts to this that we're going to, actually 5. So it's going to be AdventureWorks DB is the actual database source that we're going to use. We'll take a look at that. Then we will look at also the ETL process here using SSIS. And then we'll use that to construct and show you an actual result of an enterprise data warehouse that Microsoft has provided called AdventureWorks DW. We'll actually do one ourselves, more like a small data mart, and then we'll finally wind up with using SSAS to take our data mart and turn it into a data cube itself, so we can query it, slice it, and dice it very, very quickly. Now, so the next video in this series is we're going to be looking at, in general, just the ETL process, what it's designed to do, what the results of this sort of yellow arrow going in here is going to be. It's actually a collection of some interesting tables going into this database, because this data warehouse is actually just a collection of tables, much like this is. It's a relational database itself. And then after looking at this in general, the next video after that, we're going to actually walk you through using SSIS to take information out of AdventureWorks and put it into your own data mart here, and you can sort of follow along as well as we go through that process.